are amazing. I couldn't be happier with this company.
We absolutely love these cages.
One at a time, okay, guys? Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Coturnix Corner Live. Joining me today, as you can see, is Allie from Confetti Quail Farm. Hi, Allie.
Hello.
This is a reschedule from Sunday because I had some issues here at the house with my wife, so I wasn't able to go live. So we decided to make up for it today because Allie's not going to be available for quite some time now.
Right, at least, well, maybe a
What,
month or two.
what is going on in your life, Allie? Everybody's wondering what's going on with you. What's going on?
Oh, well, I'm moving out of Maine at the end of June, by the end of June, probably mid-June. Spending time over in New Hampshire with my daughter at my parents', and in the meantime, looking for the place that we're gonna move to and start new school and all that, and homesteading stuff.
Have you found any prospects?
I am. I'm looking. It's been a good few months of not sure where to look, but
Sure.
narrowing it down. We might be headed to somewhere that's a little bit of a surprise.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Can't wait to get settled in and get back into your quail and all your farming stuff. And
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. I need the birds and the bunnies and
Sure.
outside. Yeah. With the apartment's been great for the time being, but it's not it's not something that I'm going to be upset about moving out of and on from. So all good
Right.
stuff.
Maybe we can get you into doing some bees too. You should set up a couple of beehives. That would be cool.
As soon as I get a property, I'm going to be running.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too far into it, shout out to our sponsors, Go Forage Quail Farm and Hatching Time. As always, or as usual, these guys donate stuff to give away on the live streams. HP over at Go Forage Quail gives us some hatching eggs to give away, and Hatching Time supplies us with a $50 gift certificate, and that will be going out to a couple lucky winners tonight. I think what we're going to do to make this interesting, because we don't have a topic, we just kind of are winging this one. So whoever comes out, I'm going to let Allie choose the winner of the hatching eggs. Whoever comes up with the most, we'll call it engaging question of the night, we'll let Allie decide who that is, and they'll get some hatching eggs, and then we'll do the regular giveaway tool for the $50 gift certificate. Another thing real quick, I want to say, I know some of you saw the post over on Facebook about CoturnixCorner.com shutting down. What happened was the server that I've been on for the past 8 years or more got bought out by another company. The company got bought out, and they jacked their prices, almost doubled them. So I contacted them, tried to see if I could, get some type of a waiver on the fees because I've been with them for so long, and they declined. They want the money. So anyhow, I'm canceling that account. But good news, I did find another server that will allow me shell access into the server, which is what I need to run CoturnixCorner.com. So the site might go down for a week or two. I'm going out of town here next week, so I don't know if I'm going to have time to get everything moved over. But at least we've got a server now that we can afford, and one that will handle exactly what we needed to handle. So that was the good news on that. What else? I know there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember. Guess it wasn't that important. All right. The kids program. That's what it was. We got the June kids program coming up. I believe our judges, Andy's in the house. If you guys have already selected a winner, Andy, just let me know. And what I'll do is I'll copy all that information down before I go north. And we will be going live from Michigan again, from Gulf Coast, or from West Michigan Quail. Sorry about that. And we'll announce the winner of the Coturnix Kids program up there. I think that's it. Allie, you got any interesting news that you want to tell us?
Yeah.
Any announcements?
A lot has been going on, lots of good stuff, but yeah, I'd rather show pictures and updates
Sure.
when I can give some
Yeah.
visuals and yeah, but no, everything's really good. I'm in a good place, moving in a good direction, and it's happy and it's summer and can't complain.
Perfect.
There's no snow here right
Yeah,
now.
you can't beat that.
Yeah.
No.
No snow here right now.
I thought you said there's snow here now. I'm like, what?
No. Well, we have had it before Memorial Day weekend. That's usually
Wow.
when we're supposed to start our, planting outside after Memorial Day. But
Right.
yeah,
No, thank you.
This year was good.
Okay, seeing as how we don't have a topic, I guess we go ahead and jump into the chat room and see who all's here and see if they got any questions. If you guys do have any questions for Allie, tuck the letter Q in front of your questions so we don't miss it. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge everybody that's here anyhow, just because we don't have a whole lot of people. Well, we're getting close to 50. So anyhow, AJ Exotic says, I'll be back. We'll be here. Bernadine says, hello, everyone. Here from McMinnville, Oregon. I can't hardly see with these glasses on. So, Catherine says, good evening. Good evening, Catherine. Nadia's in the house. Says, good evening. Glad you could join us, Nadia. Katrina says, hi from Minnesota. Glad you could join us. Joy's in the house. Says, hello from Western Oregon. Glad you could join us, Joy. AJ Exotic says, made it. Here in Southeast Michigan. Cool. Another Michigander. I've seen a few of you guys, a few of you Michiganders in here tonight. Christine says, hi, just moved some to the grow out pens 20 minutes ago. Cool. Congratulations. Woodtick's in the house. Says, good evening from Central Florida. Glad you could join us, Woodtick. Savage Daughter Farm says, hello, everyone. Dane Paget's in the house. Says hello from South Georgia. Alexandra says, is it glitching for anyone else? I hope it's not. I see Bernadine says no glitching here, and I'm not seeing any glitching on my laptop. Everything look good on your end, Allie?
Mm-hmm.
Nope, no glitching, Alexandra. 340 Quail Farm says, hey, everyone, Central Florida checking in. Glad you could join us, 340. Maury Straubel's in the house. Says, good evening from West Michigan Quail. Glad you could join us too, Maury. I am going to be going live with Maury for Michigan. We're doing the second half of that cooking show that Maury did when he was down here in Florida. We're actually going to be smoking up quail on the grill and quail eggs on the grill. So that should be pretty cool. Buck Reynolds says, hello, everyone from Claremore, Oklahoma. Andy Rabbit says, hello, Allie. And he says, hello to Maury. And hello to Terry. Hi. Jessica says, hello from Missouri. All right, guys, where's the questions? We got to get Allie talking here. Maury says, hello to Andy. Dave B says, good evening, everyone. Andy Rabbit says, question, Allie, if I only have one calico rooster, what would be the best breeding for him? How to breed his babies to get calico again?
Okay. So if he's homozygous calico, calico can be on wild type base. Calico can be on fawn. So I'm assuming he's talking wild type calico. I would always put a homozygous calico with Pharaoh or Jumbo Browns because that will give you your heterozygous calico. And then you can introduce that offspring group that are going to be carriers of that calico, whether it's the sons or the daughters, to another bloodline, and then breed those together. You'll get more or heterozygous calico, and then you can breed them back, crossbreed them back, so you can bring that calico back into homozygous. You could do it the line breeding. You know, if the male homozygous to hens that are farrow, they'll produce heterozygous, both male and female calico offspring. You could put that offspring back to your male, but that's if you want to line breed. If you don't want to line breed, I would do what I said first. That makes sense. It's going to take a couple generations for you to have everything homozygous, but it's pretty straightforward.
I actually understood that with my limited knowledge of genetics. So you did a good job. Christine says best news ever. Yeah, that is good news. I'm very happy with that. Dave says, Allie, what's your favorite flavor of pansy?
He is teasing me. He knows that I have a thing. Pansy drives me crazy. My favorite pansy is homozygous pansy rock cough on a farrow base. No fawn, no dilutes, nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't handle it when it's hiding. That's like it's one of those.
I get a lot of people that ask me how you can see all those different colors just by looking at a bird, seeing all the different not bases, but you know what I mean? All the different colors that are made up in that bird.
Yeah.
And I still can't see it, and some things I know because I've bred them, but I can't do like you do and just.
Right. Well, that's the thing. If you work with it in front of you and you're intentionally, selecting your breeders and you're looking at all the offspring, it's so much easier to learn that way versus going and looking at the pictures, because a lot of times, especially now, there's so many color mutations on the photos that are online. It's like it's not as easy to just look at it and be like, that's a fawn base, that's an EB base, and because there's the calico pansy, all of that stuff now that's kind of like all in one. So it's tough.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When people ask me to identify now, it's like I will like guess, right? Be like, I would assume I'm going to assume based on the phenotype that this is what it is. But if you don't know what it's throwing, or when you breed it to farrow, like or what the parent stock was, you're really kind of guessing in most cases, unless you know the bloodline. But it's practice, and it's hatching a lot of babies.
Dame Paget's in the house. Says hello, Terry and Allie. Hello. Savage Daughter Farm says, question, Allie, what kind of feed do you use for your chicks and why?
So I've always used the Purina game bird feed for the chicks, and I put it through a coffee grinder. But that's because it's the only one that I really had access to locally. I wouldn't say that it's something that is a go-to. It's just what I had to choose from. I'm sure there are better options. I'm sure there are less better options, but that's what I use.
Yeah, I was pretty much the same way. I ended up having to use Purina because that was what was available. And then I finally convinced a feed store to order in Kalmbach. And Kalmbach did good with my layers, but I didn't really care for it for the chicks, for growing them out. So I don't know why that was. Andy says, question, can calico mix with silver?
Yep. You're gonna have a silver calico, and we'll have the white primaries on there. So just if you know that the white primaries is what you're seeing be that silver component, not worry about the dot. There's no secret dotted white, in there if you're knowing that you're using silver and calico. But yeah.
Okay, all clean exterior says hello, everyone. Glad you could join us. Bernadine says, questions. I have extra roosters. Do I breed them to older females, or is it best to breed to same age or younger?
I I think I think the quality of the bird is more important than the age of the bird. Like the overall health and structure.
Hmm.
I would choose to have an older hen if it was more of what I was looking for structure wise, and then a younger hen just because of the age.
Sure.
I've had older hens that have done really, really well. I had 3-year-old
Oh,
hens.
really?
Oh yeah. Yep. Well,
I never
because
keep anything past a year, so I wouldn't know.
See, I didn't think I was going to, but that's when I had my groups of really important genes that I had from
Mhm.
William. And I was overwintering and not sure, what was going on in my life. So I was just holding on to them
Sure.
as long as I could. But I ended up breeding them again, and they laid just as well, and they were still great 3 years in.
Hmm.
Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Here, okay, we got some explaining to do here. Allie, are Texas A&M whites truly the biggest type?
I don't know.
I don't think they are. I mean, that whole Texas A&M thing, you go on for a while, explaining that it
Yeah.
was just a dotted white that was bred for a certain type, certain size, certain egg size. It was just a what do they call it in schools where they do a testing trials, right?
Okay.
Breeding trials. Uh-oh, I lost my space here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Christine says fermented feed or not.
I've never fed fermented feed, so I don't know. What about you, Terry?
I have. I fed it. I always fed my chickens fermented feed, or I would always ferment their feed, always because I thought by looking at the hens, their feathers showed this iridescence to them. They just really popped after they were on fermented feed for a while. And I don't think that the feed had anything to do with it. It was just that was the bird. So, but anyhow, I fed it to my chickens a lot. And then when I got into quail, I'm like, I'm going to try it. And they liked it, you know. So
How do you
that's
feed
your
it
call.
feeder wise?
How do I what?
Like feeder wise? Because usually I would
Oh,
use the gravity feeders for my
right.
feed,
The
but
shoebox feeders, the little
okay.
12-inch shoebox feeder with a bunch
Mm,
of holes cut inside. Just pop the top off, slop some in there, throw it in the cage. And they're pretty good about eating it without, making a mess anywhere.
nice.
I know a few people that don't really care to give fermented feed to birds just because there is a possibility of like bacterial intrusion, I guess you would call it. Jeff Maddox is one that told me that, you really don't want to give it to them, but
Hmm.
I never had a problem with it. GFM France, I guess I can hardly see. Question: where would you recommend purchasing 1/2 by 36-inch coated wire? Do you know, Allie?
Nope, that's for you, Terry.
I would go. Amazon actually has it. Trying to think of the name of the company, the name of their store. If you go to their website, fencerwire.com, they have it. And that's where I would always buy a roll from. You got to purchase it, I believe, in 50-foot rolls. Hopefully you can use that much. But that's the best way to do it anyhow, because you're going to get, a lot better pricing than you would if you bought shorter lengths. Edwin says, question, what are some tips to determine if traits are genetic or environmental dispositions? Have a male that crows constantly after accounting for the standard things. When would you make the genetic ruling?
Wow. Hold on now. I need my
Okay.
glasses. Who is this? I'm going to say I have no helpful answer for that question. But let me read it one more. Let me read it. What are some tips for determining traits if traits are genetic or environmental? Dispositions. Grows constantly. I have no idea.
The only thing I could think, I mean, I would lean more towards something being environmental. Keeping the rooster wanting to crow all the time, whether it's light or stress. Um, I don't think genetics would play a whole big role in it as far as having a loudmouth bird. Do you?
I mean, I would think that if the lights were an issue, that would be something that you would see in
Other ones?
most,
Mhm.
yeah, and not just one separately. Um, I, yeah, I don't know. There's so many
Yeah.
things, and I've only raised birds the way that I've raised them. So
Well, I have had loudmouth birds. I mean, they crow late into the night or get up too early, and
yeah,
just constant crowing. But I always called them out. Unless it was a bird that I really wanted. Maybe
yeah.
maybe your hens are too close to him. He's trying to get their attention. All right. Monkey Bone says Northern California here, Eastern Bay Area. Oh, glad you could join us. Teresa says hi from West Virginia. Hi, Teresa. Tony's in the house says, question, wanted to ask, do I need to add grit to crumbles when feeding?
What do you think, Terry? I never have.
I never did, and I didn't think that it was necessary because the crumbles are water soluble. But after having Jeff Maddox on the show, he said you want to have grit available to quail all the time.
So I had in my hutches half sand for the
Mhm.
bottoms, but I didn't do that for the purpose of offering grit. But I got it would offer it. But yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So
I talked to Jeff about it. He said that, and for those of you who don't know, Jeff is a poultry nutritionist. Um, he said that the grit actually helps them grind up the food better, so they're getting more nutritional value out of the food. But I would have thought water soluble would have done the same thing. So, but yeah, do I have grit with my quail? No, but they are outside and they can get, you know, sand, dirt, whatever. Dan Garcia's in the house. Is California. Glad you could join us. John says, how can we make sure that we have good genetics for quail if everyone buys from big name breeders?
diversify who you're buying from. I like doing that. That way you can see different lines, different traits of different lines that you like and that you don't particularly care for. And then you can select based on those and combine. Um, I always like to, when I'm doing hatching eggs, especially for like if I'm doing a specific project like fawn, I'll keep it simple like fawn or EB. I'll buy from 3 sources and I'll hatch those lines out, watch those birds in each one, and then select the best of those. And then I'll usually combine. That way, the genetic diversity is good and you're selecting too.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, that is a good question because there are a few select breeders that, with all the new colors and stuff coming out, um, it's like there's only one source for that color. But you can always breed back to Pharaoh to introduce new blood and
Yeah.
that way. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, I was gonna say that too. Yeah. So if you have a mutation that you really want to work with, like Oz dilute, what are they calling it? Oz recessive now? Or
Mm-hmm.
no, it was called
Well,
Oz
I don't know.
recessive when I used it. Now it's snowy, I think. It's
Snowy,
snowy
right?
now. But anyway, if you want that one mutation and you get a collection of that, or on wild type or fawn, and then do as Terry said, get jumbo pharaoh from one source and then jumbo pharaoh from another source, even two, and start putting them together. And then eventually you can spiral breed, or you can, keep track of who the parents are, and work that gene back to homozygous with the different bloodlines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sue says, evening from the UP of Michigan. Cool. Glad you could join us, Susie. Suze. Monkey Bone says, my 3-year-old girl loves your birds. Good, sir. It's an easy channel to put on in front of her because y'all are so wholesome. Okay. Appreciate that.
Oh, that's cute.
As long as they don't hear what's going on behind the camera. Hey. Right.
I'm surprised my lemon hasn't started talking yet. I apologize ahead of time if he starts.
Did you ever get the new bird?
She's coming this week.
Really?
Yep, she's coming up from Florida this week. Yeah.
All right,
So
guys,
when-
get out of here.
Right in time for us to relocate.
All my dogs are going ballistic. Might be somebody at the door. I don't know. Did I? Hold on, I gotta do that. I guess I didn't get that question, did I? Bernadine says, once you move the grow outs, what is your next step and how many weeks old? Do you look for weight, color, or so and so on?
Grow outs, it depends on what you're breeding for first. If you're breeding for size, that's going to be a different type of selection. If you're breeding for body type, color mutation, all that, it's just going to depend on your goals. But if I'm breeding for color, because I don't typically weigh all of my birds for size and I don't select that way. So for me personally, if I'm breeding for color, I like to keep them past their first molt because they change a lot, especially the males. So I, in the beginning, used to select them right off, like between 8 and 10, 12 weeks, based on what they looked like. And then I would keep them. And that point in time where I had birds for, a few years because I was holding genetics, I realized that those males look completely different than I thought they did after they did a molt and then another. So, but for size, that would be different. That would be your bag, Terry.
What's that?
That would be your question for you about selecting when to select for size. Because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I start when I'm working for like keeping a jumbo line going. I start right when they're chicks. I always select the largest chicks and then move them into a separate grow out pen. And as they grow, I'll probably cut the grow out pen in half, take the 50% of the larger birds that'll grow into my adults, and then I'll do another call at when they're adults before they're ready to start breeding the largest birds. And then it actually goes a little bit further than that because once I do start breeding and the hens start laying, I do a lot of comparison egg size. So you can get really picky when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Those come before anything, I think, for both of us too.
Yep. Yeah, definitely health first, then worry about size. Good point. Jessica says, question, what's the strangest defect you have seen when hatching quail? I hatched one that had no head, looked like a brain on top of a body, was moving until I opened the egg to see what it was. What was up?
Luckily, I haven't had two. Probably deformed beaks and missing eyes.
Mine was a 4-legged quail.
Oh.
I had, it was weird. I mean, obviously it was a double yoker, and the one bird absorbed the other one, but there were literally 4 legs. 2 of the legs worked perfectly, and the other 2 were just hanging out the backside of the bird. And
oh my gosh, I think I remember you posting a picture of that. That was years ago.
I did. And
Yeah.
I called that bird right after I posted that picture. And everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people got mad at me for killing the oddity. I'm like, well, why would I keep it? HP's in the house. Gopher's Quail says, greeting from the ridge. This is early for working quail farmers. Behave, Allie. Gotta love HP.
I always behave. I don't know what he's talking about.
HP likes to drum up trouble. He said that he was rubbing off on me when I had a bunch of stuff going on. I'm like, I don't think so. I hope not. Monkey Bone says, question, Allie, if you could only have one color variety forever, what would you choose?
Blue.
Blue.
No hesitation.
That was, remember the comment on Aaron's live that I made? I can't remember what you guys were talking about. You said something about a color, what you were doing with colors, and I said you didn't say blue, and that's why I said, "What about blue?" LOL. And
I don't know.
You didn't catch it at the time because it was so far down in the thing. But.
No, I didn't catch it. No, blue is my absolute favorite. Just because it looks different on every bird.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so fun to play with. I think I love it.
Nadia says, question, do quails of different breeds / colors make different vocalizations or calls?
I don't know the right answer to that. I've had friends that have, like Klaus had said that his root sounded different than his other ones.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I've had roosters that sounded totally different from the hens in their, not when they're crowing, but when they're normal bird talk, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The hens almost sounded like girls,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, I have noticed that before.
Yep. I don't know if it's a specific color mutation that makes that. I don't know, but yeah, it is interesting. Very different sometimes.
Okay, Chantel's in the house. Man, I'm late. Dang it. Well, you made it anyhow. This was kind of a last minute live. After Sunday's debacle, I reached out to Allie to see when she could go live again, and we were just thinking Sunday for some reason. And then I'm like, why not tomorrow or Tuesday? So okay, Catherine says, question, is there a Coturnix standard of perfection? If so, where can I find one? Do you want to take that one?
I have no idea. I'm an absolute.
Yeah, currently there is not a finished standard of perfection. The people over at the ACBA, which is the American Coturnix Breeders Association, have been working on it now for a couple of years. And as far as I know, it's still a work in progress. But if you join up, I believe you have to be a member to get access to that stuff. But the last that I read, what they had, it definitely a work in progress. Dane says, HP, don't be starting trouble already. Nadia says, question, best quail enrichment ideas, please, for the aviary.
Aviary?
Mm-hmm.
So there's already ground there. I was gonna say sand bath at least. Any natural elements, I think, that you can find.
Yeah.
They love
Yeah,
it.
I just pile a bunch of brush and branches and whatnot up. I do have a few hide boxes out there that, if they want to get away from the other birds, they can, or out of the weather, they can.
Yeah. Mealworms, like food treats, like berries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You forage for them.
Too. Let's see. Dave says, HP, she didn't bring Klaus along. It's not like we didn't try. I reached out to Klaus and he said, what was his excuse? I wouldn't make a very good guest at this time. So, I took him at his word. Now, I think Klaus, he's got some issues going on, not health issues bad, but some issues going on where he's not working in that, and I think it's just kind of getting to him. So Brian says, good evening from Alabama. And Klaus is probably watching and probably saying, why on earth did you say that? Klaus knows better, doesn't he? Don't tell him if you don't want the world to know. Monkey Bones says, question, recommended time to keep layers while you're convincing your wife that culling isn't evil so you can eventually spiral breed.
Oh, the wording on that was funny. Recommend time to keep layers while you're. I would say let her keep her birds as long as she wants to.
How do you know they're her birds? They might be his birds.
That's true. That's true. If they're hers, maybe hold off on calling till she's ready. She might not want to make breakfast if that's the case. I don't know. If it's layers, it depends. I think it depends. Spiral breeding, I'm not the only time I was in a rush to really do the spiral breeding was when I was trying to hit an end goal for a line.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing it for that reason, like the turnaround time for having to spiral breed is preference, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the health declining, then yeah. But or the productivity declining, yeah. If you're forcing light, it's probably going to make things a little bit more stressful for the hens. You might see some things going on that you don't love. But it's a personal preference. Like I said, next time I go into it, I'm not going to replace mine unless I have to, like more than once a year. But I'm not in the business right now of selling either. So it really depends. I don't know does he have a business or is it just backyard?
I don't know.
Yeah, for just personal backyard, I don't think there's a rush, but just
Okay, HP says, Dave, I'm still watching her with both hands.
what?
I think they're talking about you, Allie. Savage Daughter Farm says, I had problems with comb box for my chick as well. That's why I wanted to ask. Okay, interesting. Because I've always heard people had, say how great Kalmbach was, and then I actually switched to it. And like I said, for the chicks, I didn't really see that much of an improvement. The only thing I did notice was the manure smells. As the chicks got a little bit older, the manure smell with the Kalmbach was less than it was with the Purina game bird. For some reason, something in the Purina made their poop stink. I mean, terrible. Okay, Savage Daughter Farm says temps were perfect. Lost 10 out of a 30 hatch. Switched back to a local brand on the next hatch. Or next batch, lost 2. Are you talking about a local brand of incubator?
Feed?
Temps were perfect. Lost 10 out of 30. I don't know. Jessica says, what age do you suggest culling out breeding roosters?
I'll let you answer that because I'm a little bit of an odd duck with it.
It depends, really. I mean, Allie was specialty breeding, so she'd probably hang on to her roosters a little bit longer.
Yeah.
For people that are more commercial that want to produce fertile eggs, they probably replace roosters, every 6 or 8 months just to keep that fertility rate up. I've gone as much as a year on mine, just because, one, they were still producing fertile eggs, and I couldn't think of any other reason to kill the poor thing. See, Tony says, I put all mine types in a cage and see what I get, kind of like a surprise to me. LOL. Okay. Yeah, I've done that. Andy says, I have had some good luck with a few sets of 3-year-olds too. They lay good. HP says, what are you saying, Dana? Oh, talking to Dane. Okay. Allie's jacket star is cute.
Thank you.
You got to. Oh, okay. I see it. Yep. I didn't even notice.
Thank you.
Let's see. Kurt's in the house. As I almost missed out tonight. Hello from Michigan. Glad you could join us, Kurt. Glad you didn't miss out. I was hoping that because we don't go live every Tuesday, I was hoping you guys get notifications from YouTube, letting you know. So, but I mean, we got 70 some odd viewers right now, so we're not doing too bad. HP talking to Dane. Debbie says, I'm so happy I have 2 lines of solid blacks. I just hatched 2 separate lines of Celadon hatch out.
Nice. Hopefully some pretty fun colors for your Celadon.
Yep.
Like the tuxies. Love those.
Andrew Evans says, question, Allie, did you notice more hen ratio from your 3-year-old quail? My first set I did. I have a few sets in the brooder now from adults from 2022, waiting to see the hen to rooster ratio still.
I didn't notice a difference personally. Mm-mm.
I always notice it seems like all I ever get is roosters. It's like every hatch I get seems like it was heavy on the roosters.
Oh.
Maybe because I was trying to increase my numbers, and I needed the hens. So.
That's the way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Debbie says, change the environment or the genetics and see where the difference is, just to prove out the line. Okay, I'm sure that's a follow-up to something Debbie posted earlier, but I don't remember. Oh, I see. She talked about having the 2 lines of blacks and the Celadons.
Mm-hmm.
Necro Kitty's in the house. Says, hey, everyone. Glad you could join us. Andrew Reb says, question, if we have some standard quail and some jumbos, what the breeding? A jumbo rooster over small hens or jumbo hens with a smaller rooster? Okay, now I understand. What's your take on that, Allie?
I would. I'd personally put a smaller rooster with larger hens, just so it doesn't. A big boy with little hens, that can cause some stress to them. But I don't know if that's accurate. It's just what I would do personally to avoid injury.
Right, and the most part, even in jumbo lines, the roosters always run a little bit smaller than the hens anyhow. So, yeah, I would definitely stick with the smaller rooster over the larger hens. Bernadine says, I use pigeon feeders for grit. They work great. Found them on Amazon. They hang outside the cages. There you go.
Thanks.
Debbie says, question, can you grind up cuttle bone like it's used for parakeets and add calcium to their diet?
I would think so, but I've never done it, and I haven't looked into it either.
Yeah. I had some I hung inside the cages because I was getting a few birds that had overgrowth on their beak. And Michael told me, he said, hang that in the cage and they'll actually kind of scratch at it to make their beak a little bit smaller. I don't know if it ever worked or not.
Did they? Okay, because I did that and mine never touched it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
mine didn't either.
No.
Dane says, HP, I'm just saying, maybe like myself, you sometimes enjoy stirring the pot a little bit. Yep. Now, HP's a good guy. He does stir the pot, and he's always joking.
I consider HP one of my close friends, so he can tease all he wants. It's fun for me.
Butterfly Me Away is in the house. Says hi in stormy Charleston, South Carolina. Did you guys get a cold snap come through there this week? Up there,
Me?
where you at, Maine?
Or
yeah. No, in Maine.
We had rain.
Did you?
We had a lot of rain for I was gonna say like a day, but no, it wasn't very cold. I did see the forecast, but yeah, it didn't hit.
Yeah, no, the reason I ask is my family, they're in Michigan.
Yeah.
They've been saying it's been like in the 40s all week long. And for
Oh,
this time of year, that's pretty cold.
oh no. No, thank you. Today was about, I want to say high 70s here. So,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah.
John says, thank you for the answer. Absolutely. Nanny, I think I said that right. Nanny B. I have 2-week-old jumbo paternity quail. Some are pulling feathers out of others and eating the feathers. Don't know what to do.
Oh, I don't know either. I don't know.
I would look into their diet. Could be that you've got birds that are low on either protein or calcium, and they're trying to eat the feathers as a supplement for that. But
Are they under a weird colored light?
yeah, there you go. I don't know what's the paternity quail, jumbo paternity. I've never heard of that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, check. I mean, Nanny, I would first thing I would do is check their feed, make sure that they're getting all the nutrients that they need from it. I can't remember. Somebody told me why they eat feathers, and I don't know if it was for. I think it was for protein. I want to say, but it could have been calcium. I don't know. Lady in Hawaii says aloha all. Aloha all. Aloha. Oh, not paternity, Coturnix.
Oh,
I didn't even think about spell check. Savage Daughter Farm says HP, my mix hatched, and I had an 85% hatch rate. Very impressive. And as she said, very impressed. Yeah, I always get really good hatch rates when I get eggs from HP. Better than the average for shipped eggs.
I need to get some HP babies for myself. I want to get his fab feed again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Savage Daughter Farm says it's a homemade box incubator. Okay, maybe that's what. Remember that question had 10 of 30 survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely run some tests on your incubator. Make sure that you've got uniform temperatures throughout. I don't know if all your birds hatched or if you had 10 of them that just didn't hatch. Could have been a humidity issue. What I do, even on my DIY incubators, I've built so many of them, but even when I build a new one, I put it through its paces as far as getting it dialed in, right? Because, no thermometers are the same, no regulators are the same. Your heat source might put out a little more or a little less heat than other heat sources. So, okay, where are we at again? Savage Daughter Farm says Pips and Chicks has a small one to see on their website, Standard of Perfection. Yeah, Bree was actually part of getting the first Standard of Perfection started for the ACBA. And I just found out today that Bree's no longer a part of that, which really surprised me. I'm not talking to me. Carolina says, hello, best quail box, metal or wood? Talking about a cage, maybe? Or a brooder? Don't know.
I think it depends on how many quail you're keeping, how much cleaning you want to do. Is it indoor, outdoor? What kind of climate are you in? There's so many factors to it. Up here, I did outside hutches. And if I would have had metal, I would have had a whole lot of predator issues from the bottom. So I had closed bottoms, substrate, plywood walls, for the snow and all of that. But yeah, if I was in a hot climate like you, Terry, it would probably be very, very, very different.
Yeah, no, definitely is. The hutches that you have would not work for me down here. I would end up having to put cooling fans in them, and unless I could park them under a shade tree, maybe.
I don't have any hutches anymore, Terry. I need to start
Yeah.
all over.
Yeah, but
So
sometimes
I have
starting
to,
over is good.
yeah, I have to learn a whole new climate and figure out a brand new
Is
setup.
it that big
So
of a difference between Maine and New Hampshire? Or are you moving
I might,
farther south?
I might, I might be going a little closer to you.
Oh, very cool. Nico Kitty says, question, what are the most common issues I should cull over? And that's another good thing if you want to get into bees, because bees don't do real well in the far north. You know, they have issues wintering over. So, but anyhow, what are the most common issues that she should cull over?
Common issues, any kind of deformities, and um, leg issues. I don't know. I haven't run into very many issues,
Mhm.
I guess. There very rarely do I have a bird with issues. It's more of what's not what don't I want to reproduce, or what do I want to reproduce more than something else.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. And
Mm.
my first call, my first general call is when they're chicks. I kind of look over all the chicks and make sure that I have birds that don't have or have failure to thrive. They immediately go. Any birds that have like wry neck or feet problems, leg issues, splay leg, they're gone. I don't even I never try to fix something that's broken. I just call them. Um, but then as you go to your next call, is say when they're juveniles, you might start looking at color and pattern.
Yeah,
I guess it depends on
yeah,
what you're doing.
yeah. Color breeding is something. After all the health checks,
Yep.
when I was doing color selection, um, like you're looking for symmetry, you're looking for um, the clean masks, whatever it is that your preference is for that one mutation, like you're selecting a preference. Um, but mostly like it's like the lines down the back, and it's it there are some that are better than others
Mhm.
in that way. But when she's saying call, I'm not sure if she's meaning, just not making it into a breeding project. I'm assuming, I don't know, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, it it depends. It just depends. That depends on what you're looking for.
I think once you get more into it, you're gonna see stuff that you want and stuff that you don't want. So that'll be more like advanced culling. But
Yeah, beaks were a big thing for me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of could that ran into it. I ran into issues with that a little bit with a
Mhm.
few groups that I had, um, and I just didn't keep the group because I wasn't sure, if it was something that was being inherited in a a recessive way, or I don't know how the beak uh,
Sure.
stuff works. But yeah, I just omit a group altogether if it wasn't, you know, not omit them, but like don't continue. I wouldn't continue. Like my Celadon lines, I kept them until they were older, and then I just didn't replace them because some
Yep,
lines just I didn't like.
I hear you. Dane
Mhm.
says I've been getting 90% or better hatch rates out of my Metacoupix 30 every time. I've heard some good things about them. I've never tried one, but I've heard a lot of people say the same thing, that they're getting really good hatch rates. So that must be a decent incubator. Okay, Edwin says, question, what's the calmest variety you have encountered? Need a dodo bird Coturnix variety.
My my Egyptians were fantastic. I loved them. I never had issues with my Egyptians. My Manchurians were also fantastic. Um, I got my Manchurians from Michael Rose, and I got my Egyptians from HP. And the Fab Fee from HP were great too. for me.
This next comment will interest you, Allie.
Ooh.
Otis says, I'm still working with Williams birds when you want blues.
Oh, what? Who is this? Who is
Write
this?
that down.
What? What's the name?
Take notes.
Otis. Who is it? Who is it? All
Otis, you
right.
need to contact Allie afterwards and let her know. It's
Oh,
I mean, other than HP, it's getting really difficult to find bloodlines that originated from, what William brought in from Europe.
well, it's a sentimental thing for me too, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Because it's like you say William, and I'm like, oh my gosh, take anything that was kept
sure.
from William. Same thing with Naomi. There's just some breeders that I feel
Yeah,
like I just want a piece of what they worked on. It's special.
exactly.
Yeah,
I know the feeling.
yeah.
All Clean Exterior says, question, did you ever dabble in getting true pharaohs? Uh-oh. Here we
Me?
go. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. So, um, accidentally, this is what happened to me. Okay. Accidentally, I was getting clean pharaohs because I got some of the original German sparkly import. Right. They came in and they hadn't been crossed with an American meat maker line. Right. So I wasn't expecting the sex link brown to not be there, but I was removing the sparkly because I wanted to see what was underneath the sparkly, if there were any other mutations there that I wasn't seeing phenotype wise.
Sure.
In doing that, I was getting Italians that didn't have SLB visually, and I was getting pharaohs that didn't have SLB visually. I was still in the process of testing that. Phenotype wise, they were there. There were carriers within that mix because I was never, I got out of quail for a couple of years, so I didn't continue on with that project. But I accidentally started that project because of that reason. Now, that has happened a couple of times for me accidentally with using a line that was an original import line. I had EBs from an original import line that I looked at that I was like, what is going on with this EB? It looks different than any EB I've used before. It looked almost like it looked very dull to me. It didn't have that chocolatey brown color, right? Highly suspect that that was just an EB without SLB on there. You'd have to test it out, but that I have gotten it from, original import that haven't been crossed.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of pharaohs from the States. It was like a 2-year project, and I thought I was getting close, but then they'd go through a molt, or I would hatch more eggs out from that line, and sure enough, SLB popped right up again. I gave up on it. I'm like, it can't be done. Just at least not with the American lines of pharaohs. I couldn't do it.
I have a lot of things that interest me more than that. So and
that's the way I look at it now. That SLB is not a bad thing.
No.
There's Coturnix, and depending on what you're breeding for, but a lot of these color breeders, they want that pure, clean pharaoh base to know what the phenotypes are going to produce, for other birds or other different colors. You know what I mean? With no SLB influence, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I'll shut my mouth.
Yeah, you could go on and on and on that subject. That's why I said, uh-oh. And he says, question, if a quail is from a silver line but is a normal color, does it carry the silver gene? And here's the follow-up on that. Or can I use from a silver line to breed true to another, like say Italian?
So Silver is not recessive, so it will not hide. When it looks gray, like that silver gray color, it's heterozygous for silver. So it's a one copy carrier silver and it will have white primaries. The tone of that will look different on each bird, each base pattern that it's on. It's going to look different phenotype wise. But if it appears silver, it's het silver. The homozygous silvers are going to be like all white. They're not going to do well. Typically, like failure to thrive kind of situation. It's got that fatality issue. I don't know a whole lot about that. I've from day one avoided doing silver to silver crosses for that reason. So I don't have personal experience with homozygous silver, but it won't hide. It's so you'll see it if it's there. What was the other?
Hold on. That was, yeah. Okay. The first part was if a quail is from a silver line but is normal color, does it carry the silver gene?
Okay. No. Nope. It would not be. It would not be carrying it as a
Right.
recessive.
If it was, it would be heterozygous, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Pamela says, always interested coming on here, but I was late too. Well, at least you made it.
I think he had 2 questions prior to. Did you?
Andy, by the way, is a girl.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah.
Andy. I don't know why.
I don't know.
There was 2.
And I thought it was Andy was a guy. I thought Andy was from Texas, and then I found out I was wrong. And Andy's from
That's
Missouri.
probably why
And,
I thought yes.
Yeah.
Because I probably
Yep.
thought that.
Did you
Or
want the
can
second half of that? Or
Yeah.
can I
Or
use
can
silver
I
line to
use-
breed true to another state, let's say Italian?
So a silver line will not breed true if you're doing it safely, right? Because when you're trying to breed true, right? I'm going to simplify this, okay? But you're in simple terms, breeding true means that all of your birds, like they're going to look the same, and when you breed them together, they're going to produce babies that look just like the parents did, right? That's oversimplifying it. Okay. If you have silver to silver, you want to avoid that breeding true. That's not a goal. What you could do is if you wanted silver Italian or silver fawn, you would have your silver pharaoh, cross them to Italian, and you could have some of those be silver fawn, but still make sure that they have the mix, that you're putting the mix in and you're not having a male silver to silver hens. Doesn't matter what base pattern they're on, but that's something that you want to avoid, because if you're crossing the silver to silver, that's when you get the issues with the homozygous silver. So it won't be something that breeds true. Andalusians the same way. The only diluter gene that does not have that, well, not the only, one diluter gene that you can use and play with that doesn't have that fatality issue, as far as I'm aware of, is the blue. So you could have blues that hatch true or breed true, but they're all going to look white. So it's like when you're playing with these diluters, it's like you have to, most of them, it's better to keep them in a mix, unless it's something that dilute is only the goal that you want appearance wise. That dilute has to be homozygous. So if you're doing phi, like a phi project, phi is a diluter gene, you want that to breed true and homozygous, because it gives you that purest, like white, bright, higher contrast coloration. So that is something that you would want to breed true. Another one is snowy, like that Oz recessive. You would want that to breed true, because otherwise you're going to end up with some that look that way and some that are recessive. So I overcomplicated that massively, probably, but yeah, the diluters, some of them you don't want to breed true.
Okay.
I hope that made sense. I don't
It
know.
did, and I actually understood it. So
Okay.
if I can understand it, I'm sure anybody else can. Fred says hello from North Carolina. Fred, glad you could join us. Promised Land Homestead says, question, Allie, you was saying she might not want to fix breakfast in the morning. Do you fix breakfast for your family? I'm
I
lost on that
love
one.
being in the kitchen. Absolutely.
Candy Rabbit says, my first set of 3-year-olds, I was wanting to breed for food, so I didn't want hens, and I got 3 or 5 roosters from something like 80 chicks. Wow. I learned to just butcher the hens. Wow, that's out of 80 chicks, you only got 5 roosters. That's crazy.
Wow.
Let's see. Fred says, how do you guys grind calcium or give calcium? Maybe
You can do you can do the shells back.
eggshells.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never supplemented really per se calcium. At least not with my quail. My chickens, I used to give them oyster shell.
Mhm.
But yeah, with the quail, yeah, I take that back. I have done. I have baked shells before, crumbled them up real good, and threw them back in there, and they ate them. So the one thing with calcium though is you kind of got to watch. You don't want to overdo it because it can make their eggshells that they lay too thick, too hard, and the chick can have issues hatching out of them. So
Oh.
theoretically, there should be enough calcium in the feed that if you're buying a commercial feed, they kind of the recipe for it supposedly addresses the amount of calcium that the birds need. So I don't. Chantel says, I don't know if I missed it in the beginning. Allie, do you have any experience with cardoon? Celadon, maybe? What's cardoon?
I think that's the new gene that I saw, or new mutation that I saw that they had separated or separating from the American pansy. I don't know anything about it. I just saw a little thing.
Mhm.
But no, I've haven't worked with any American pansy either.
Right.
So
Nico Kitty says, question, I make bone broth often. The bones get to the point they're falling apart. I could just supplement my quail with crushed, softened bones. I don't see why not. Like I said, unless you're having an issue, I don't think I would worry too much about giving them extra calcium. I mean, if you're seeing issues like, birds are having, like leg issues, because they're lacking calcium or laying really soft shelled eggs that crack when you pick them up. I was never really adding extra calcium. You got awful dark there, Allie. Did you turn the light off or something?
no, it's just getting late here.
Whoa. Okay.
The
It's still
sun is
daylight here.
going down, Terry.
Yes. There's a thing that they make. It's called a light bulb.
I can turn it on, but you know what? I'm in the city right now, and I'm gonna get
I mean, it's fine. I can
and
still see
everybody
you.
in here is going. Everybody in the city is gonna see me in here talking to my. No, it's all right. I'll turn it on. I'll turn it on. My bird's gonna be angry with me though, and he's gonna be like,
Oh, don't want to wake the bird up. He's talking to Debbie. Jessica says, LOL, you skipped my question. I don't remember seeing your question, Jessica. Go ahead and type it in there again, Jessica. Yeah, I can see you now.
There's more light probably than what you need. All right.
It's actually perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, Jessica, go ahead and put your question back in there. I'm sorry, I skipped it. Frozen Home said, Allie, you were saying you might not want. Oh, didn't I read that one? Did you fix
Oh, the
breakfast?
breakfast thing. I love making breakfast. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love eating breakfast.
Yeah.
How on earth did I get this far behind on? Okay, there we go. Butterfly Me Away says, even the cat came in out of the storm, got my 3-second reprieve. Thought I'd go give the birds some water. Even in the rain, they want more water. Okay. Are you, Allie, picking a winner for the hatching eggs? I see that it's already 8:15. How are you on time?
I'm fine.
Okay.
What? Think I go out and?
Well, you never know. I mean,
No, Terry, I'm good.
I
All
lost
right.
out again.
Yes.
See, Alfred
having
says,
heartbreak
I found
water.
if you're running the chicks too hot, they will also pull feathers. Hey, that's a good point. Okay, we did the calcium. We did that. There we go. Nadia says, question, what determines egg color pattern in quail?
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the last things that's done in the reproductive tract. You know, the egg is white all the way through, or actually when it's shelled, it's white. And then the last thing, it runs through the printer. But
Yeah. There are the additional mutation or the additional genes for the colored eggshells too that are different, but
mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You mean like celadon or?
yeah, but the patterning, I don't know. I think it's very unique.
Nope, me neither. Savage Not a Farm says, I was saying I lost 10 on Calmbox, switched back to local feed. I was using and only lost 2. Okay, there you go. Now we understand. Jacob says, question, how long until you get your first eggs at week 8 and a little disappointed?
So when I had my first birds, they were 14 weeks old and still not laying because I needed to figure out what they needed for lighting, what was working within the housing. So yeah, it was very frustrating for me to figure it out. That I think everybody kind of goes through that in the beginning. So don't get frustrated. It's just something needs to be tweaked, or maybe you've already fixed it and they're just taking a little bit longer to kind of kick on. So as long as your lighting is good and they're not stressed, and you have your ratios right, like if you have a whole lot of males in there with your hens, that might be an issue, but lighting was a big thing for me, and feed. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And he says, question, can we breed for egg coloring? I have a hen that the spots is a goldish color. Huh.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I would test breed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jessica says, just hatched from HP this week. I think the eggs had a rough side and or a rough ride, and we still ended up with 12 babies. Can't wait to watch them grow. Cool. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the Postal Service. I don't know what's going on with them, but it's like, I mean, it's not just hatching eggs. They're dropping the ball on all their stuff. You know, whether it's, you know, being late or just boxes being damaged. It's crazy.
Oh.
Savage Otter Farm says Bree isn't. What the heck was she working her little tail? Yeah, I know. That surprised me 100%. I mean, I thought, you know, I mean, actually the whole thing was Bree's idea to get it going, and I guess she was voted out of office. Let's see. I'm just going to go to the questions now because we're getting a little late here. Andy Rabbit says, what's the best way to breed dotted white out of a line?
The best way to breed dotted white out is to select the ones that, well, see, I'm assuming that you're using that you're trying to breed out from like a tuxedo. So you're not starting with like a homozygous dotted white, like an English white. If you're starting with an English white, you're gonna want to put it to a Pharaoh. You're gonna want to cross those. You're gonna get tuxedos. you're going to want to cross the tuxedos to a pharaoh. Then you're going to want to select the ones that aren't tuxedos anymore. You'll end up with different base patterns here and there, but basically you want to keep putting your tuxedos with non-tuxedos. You'll get less tuxedos and just select those. You might get something pop up. It's a little bit trickier to select on some base patterns. Like sparkly can kind of throw you a little bit, like because the feathers are hard to see. Fawn, you won't see the tuxedo as much. So if you're trying to breed out anything, I always say breed it to pharaoh because it's just easier to visually see what's going on.
Yeah, I've run into some surprises even in pharaoh lines where just out of the blue a dotted white would pop out, and it's that hidden recessive that just comes out of nowhere. I don't want to say the breeder that I got them from, but I mean I was breeding multiple generations, and all of a sudden dotted white pops up.
Sometimes the little on a pharaoh or a jumbo, they can hide like in the little armpits.
Mm-hmm.
Little white feathers in the armpits, so the tushy feathers. Yeah, they can be sneaky.
Section Outdoors says I had an 80% hatch rate from the first box of eggs I won. Never did get the second box. Really? I didn't know you. Well, I mean, I don't keep track of them, but yeah, if you were selected for a second box of eggs that you did not receive, email me, terry@coturnixcorner.com. And if you could let me know roughly when it was, I'm pretty sure it would have been HP's eggs. But yeah, if you didn't get your second box, we'll look into it and see if we can't get that straightened out for you. Negro Kitty says, my quails have a lot of issues. One of them prolapsed. The next week, 4 more prolapsed. Another suddenly got hunched over. I'm not sure if I got good birds. They really like to pull feathers out too.
Are they jumbos? Are they jumbos with real big eggs? I haven't had a whole lot of I've only had a couple prolapse, and they were jumbo girls that laid real big eggs. If that's the case and it's through the whole line, that might just, they may have been bred a little bit too big for them to handle, but I don't know. I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you probably got a line that's, especially if you have multiple birds with the same issues. Replace your line. Andy Rabbit says, I'm so glad I didn't go to work tonight. I didn't skip this time. I had to stay home and watch my grandkids. That's cool. I'm glad you could join us tonight, Andy. And that's why I messaged you on coturnixcorner.com that we were going live tonight, because I didn't want you to miss it. Chantel says, just got a 70% on shipped eggs that came in from the other coast. Very cool. Maticupix is way better for me than the Nurturite 360. Yeah, I believe it is. I was never a big fan of the Nurturites. Oh, it says we're all friends on Facebook, or we are friends on Facebook. Oh, that's your link to William's Birds.
Oh, I know
So
who he is. That. Yes, I just got his picture in my mind. Yes.
Cool. There you go.
All right.
Danny says I got an excellent hatch rate from the Maticupix. That seems to be pretty common with them. Necro Kitty said they started laying regularly when I started checking them more often. Okay, I don't know. They're in a hutch, so when I spilled, they didn't have access. I don't know. I'm trying to relate that back to the prolapse issue. They are shoebox fed, so now things are a lot better now. Now you really threw me off. Are you following this line of questioning here, Andy? I mean, Allie? Okay. We're lost. No. That's what happens to old people when it gets late. Things don't work out. Andy says, it's okay. Everyone thinks Andy means guy.
I think I thought that because I think you were speaking to her as if she was a man. And so I
Really?
thought she was a man. I'm sorry, Angie. Oh my gosh. It's Terry's fault.
Yeah, blame it on Terry. I'll take the blame. Chasing what's beneath the water. Oh, that's a cool name. Have you ever raised bobwhites?
Nope.
Nope. I
I
hatched them once,
don't
but I didn't raise them.
I don't have a flight pen. I've never had a flight pen. It's not like I haven't had an interest, but yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Jennifer Bryant's in the house. Says hi. Glad you could join
Hello.
us, Jennifer. HP says I rest my case. Somebody proved HP's case. Jennifer says, HP, you playing judge again? Yep. All right. Jacob, question. How soon should they start laying eggs?
I expect mine 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what time of year.
Hmm.
If it's during the winter time, they're not going to lay till spring because
Yeah,
I
especially if you
don't
don't
put
add the
lights on
lighting
them.
or yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Jessica says, question, what are your favorite colors to cross to get the most color variety in the offspring? LOL, I had to go back and look.
The most variety in the offspring. Oh, all right. If I wanted confetti quail babies, I would have Italians, Pharaoh. I would have sparkly. I'd have for dilutes, fee, blue, Andalusian or silver. And I'd stick with those. Um, unless you also want to put in rue and snowy. With that said, though, you're going to have recessives. So the reason why I left those two out is because the ones that I mentioned before the rue and before the Oz snowy, they're predictable still as far as how they look. So you can mix them all together, but visually, if you did want to separate them later to do something with more intention, you wouldn't have this massive guessing game, but you'd have a lot of variety. If you start adding in sex link recessive rue or something that's a recessive like the Oz Snowy, you're going to have added variety on there too, but you're going to have some of those birds carry things. So if you did want to go back later on, it would be harder to separate and pull them out. If that's not a concern for you, toss them in there too. And I didn't mention EB base just because I don't like EB and fawn together, but if you don't mind EB and fawn together, do that too. And dotted white in there will give you all the tuxedos that you want of all the colors. So, did that give you a to-do list? Like,
Yeah.
that's
In other
that's
words, go out and
recipe.
buy every color you can,
Uh-huh.
throw them in a pen.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, Andy says, Allie, how would I go about test breeding for egg color? Remember the goldish colored spots on the egg?
Yeah. I would just make sure that you know what hen is laying that egg and keep her babies separate when you hatch them out. So you can watch her daughters and see what her daughters lay. Um, if I don't know much about egg genetics, I don't know if there's recessive things that happen that you need something in homozygous. I don't know. I don't think I don't know. I don't know. But that's what I would do and just see if the daughters produce something close to the mom. For more advanced information, I would go elsewhere, probably. the
Can't find it here.
colors and genetics group. Maybe someone's done that,
Right.
or pull up some sciencey papers.
Okay. Joy says, question, I have gotten Italian tuxedos very rarely. How would I purposely breed for Italian tuxes and get a better number of them? Yeah, girl.
So, a better number. Are you looking to have? Because, hold on, let me read this again. Hold on. I am okay. Italian tuxedos very rarely. How do I purposefully breed for Italian tuxedos? Okay, so if you want Italian tuxedos, I would start with Manchurian, and I would start with a Pharaoh tuxedo white wing. So if I were placing an order for eggs and I was going through HP, I would get HP's white wing and HP's Italian, right? If you put Italian to Italian, you get Manchurian, have a pure Manchurian line. That way, when you breed your Manchurians to your Pharaoh white wings, which are heterozygous dotted white, right? They're going to throw Italian tuxedos. Not all of them, but I want to say half of them. I don't know. It's late. I got to double check that, but not all of them, half of them. You can do something like a dotted white or an English white to your Manchurians or Italians, but what that's going to do, you don't know what's underneath those two copies of dotted white. Typically, you have an EB base under there, which is why I'm saying go to the Pharaoh with the white wing, right? White wing Pharaoh or Pharaoh tuxedo, because you know you're not introducing EB into that too. So that's the reason for that. The reason why I'm saying use Manchurian too and not Italian, you can use Italian, but Italian to a Pharaoh, Italian is only one copy of fawn. If you're wanting more Italian tuxedos, and if you start with a Manchurian, all of those babies from that Manchurian, if you cross them to Pharaoh, are going to be Italian. So that's why I'm saying, if it were me, I would get Italians, make sure that I'm breeding them together. So I've got a group of homozygous fawn Manchurians, then introduce them to a Pharaoh white wing. I hope that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
That was a good question. Joy.
Yes.
Who was that? Joy?
That was Joy Guthrie. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, 340 Quail Farm says, question, can an EB or Tibetan bird that's black with a reddish hue be considered homozygous?
An EB or Tibetan bird that's black with a
The
reddish
Tibetan
hue
would be
considered
homozygous.
Tibetan would be homozygous for EB. So EB is the color mutation that creates Tibetan. It's just EB in a 2-copy form.
Mhm.
One copy of EB would be a Rosetta. So if it's black with a reddish hue, I would think that you have a Tibetan probably with sex-linked brown, and that's why it's got that warm. Yeah. If it's like brick, like a brick red color, it's probably got the rouge elude in there. A bricker.
Bricker. I gotta remember that.
Yeah.
I want more bricker in my birds, please.
Oh my god.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and give away some hatching eggs. Allie, have you selected someone?
Joy Guther.
Joy?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Joy, you know the routine. Send me your shipping information to Terry at Coturnix Corner. Corner.com. I hope I spelled that right. I can't really see very well. I just Terry at Coturnix Corner.com. Okay, yeah, send me your shipping information Make sure I get a good phone number, a good email address, and obviously a good address. And I will forward that on over to HP and get you some hatching eggs. For the $50 Hatching Time gift certificate, if you guys want to comment, hashtag hatching time, all one word, lowercase, we'll go ahead and take a few more questions, give you guys time to enter the hashtag, and then we'll give away the $50 gift certificate. Because we're running late and I'm getting hungry. Modified Chevy says, question, what happens when you cross blacks with dotted whites?
I have not worked with the blacks, so I don't know if it's the same. If they behave the same as a Tibetan, you'd get tuxedos. But I have no idea what genetically the blacks are, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Here's a calico question. Jean says, with calico feet, I've seen both gray tones and black and white. Can you explain how you get one versus the other?
Yes, it would be the difference between if the calico is heterozygous for phi or homozygous for phi. So if it's heterozygous for phi, you're gonna have it's still gonna have the white in there, but it's not gonna be as crisp, with not as much like contrast as a homozygous phi would be. You still might see a little bit of golds or browns in there, just a little bit, more color variation, not so contrasted. So visually, you should be able to tell between heterozygous and homozygous phi calico.
Okay, I think I saw a couple other questions. Joy says, oh my God, thank you. I've never won anything. That's awesome. HP says, Joy, go ahead and PM HP and he'll take care of you. If not HP, when I get the email, I'll forward that on to you. Bonnie says, I love learning about quail color genetics.
Me too. Kind of an addiction.
I hit the wrong button there. Andy says, Allie, this has been an awesome tonight. Thank you for coming on.
Good.
Exactly. That was the main reason to get her back on here. All right. Well, we are down at the bottom of our list of questions. So let's go ahead and give away a $50 Hatching Time gift certificate. If I can remember how to do this again. Share screen. Select the screen. Okay, if I did it right, you guys should be able to see the shared screen. Yep, there it is. We're going to collect the comments. We have 21 entries for hatching time. And let's go ahead and do the drawing. Butterfly me away. Okay, butterfly me away. I need you to email me your information. Let me see. Go back to the other screen there. Terry at Coturnix Corner. Make sure I get a good email for you and your real name, not butterfly me away. And I will forward that to Hatching Time because they're going to email you the gift certificate. All right, looks like we got it. Necro Kitty said, I enjoyed the show. You should come back again sometime. Yeah, we'll definitely get her back on here. Once she gets quail, so we know she knows what she's talking about.
I know, I'm rusty.
Let's see. I think that's about it. Allie, you're the best.
Oh, that's nice.
Very good live. Thank you so much. My birds like mozzarella cheese. Okay. I agree with and second Necro Kitty. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. I enjoyed it. Allie, thank you very much. I'm glad we finally
love hanging out with you guys. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, it's great. So once you get settled in your new place and whatnot, just let me know, and we'll see if we can't get you and Klaus next time. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk Klaus into it.
I'm thinking me and HP.
There you go. That would be a good combination.
Yeah.
I'll run that by HP and see what he says.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Modified Chevy says, good show. From what I've seen, I'm going to restart it. Cool. So again, guys, thanks for joining us. I don't know what's going on. I'll probably go live Sunday. I'm leaving next week to Michigan. So the following week, we'll be going live from Michigan, and Maury from West Michigan Quail will be joining us. So again, Allie, thank you so much. Much appreciated. And we'll see all you guys next week. Bye.